Welcome to episode 140 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share 5 habits that helped me simplify and automate my life so that I can focus on what really matters to me. Visit truthforteachers.com to ask a question or to share your thoughts in the comments. This episode is brought to you by Brains On. It's an award-winning podcast from American Public Media that's dedicated to inspiring kids' natural curiosity about the world. The Brains On podcast has over 100 episodes covering real science topics, including everything from why people have allergies to how electricity works. And now Brains On is offering free standards-based curriculum and activities for educators that will go with each one of their episodes. You can learn more and download their free teacher resources at brainson.org/learn. So, longtime listeners of this podcast have probably heard me talk a lot about strategies for work-life balance and just sort of holding everything together, productivity as a teacher. This episode is going to be a little bit different because it's basically just a personal reflection on what those principles look like in my life right now, in this season of my life. I'm going to share 5 choices that I have made, which are essentially habits for me now. These help me simplify and automate things, and hopefully it will give you some ideas about ways that you can do the same. So the first thing is that I prioritize simplicity in my lifestyle choices. And I'll say up front that I intentionally delayed parenthood. I don't have kids at this point. My husband and I just started trying within the last 2 years. So we're hoping that it will still happen for us, but I feel good about my decision to wait this long in my life. There were things that I wanted to get settled first. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to be present as a mom for my children if I'd had them younger in life. I just knew myself. I knew that I needed time to focus on me, on my career, on my marriage. I just needed to do those things first. So that makes a big difference, right? The simplicity of my lifestyle. And it's not to say that you can't ever have balance or you can't get things done when you're a parent, but I know that that causes your priorities to shift. So it's something that I considered and I was really intentional about. I knew that if I had kids, that it would change things. So if you haven't had kids and you're trying to make a decision about that or how you want to use your time, keep in mind, you don't have to. You don't have to have kids now. You don't have to have kids ever. You don't have to do what everyone around you does and follow some sort of timeline that you feel like other people have set for their lives. You could make your own timeline here. And if you're listening to this and you already have children, then the message for you is don't compare yourself to someone who doesn't. Because obviously my life is much simpler and less hectic without kids. I have fewer obligations on my time and my energy. So you have to choose the right path for you. This was the right path for me, and it's part of the key to how I'm able to get things done and some of the other things that I'll share with you. I also keep things simple in other decisions that I've made. So, an easy example is I have a cat instead of a dog. Years ago, I used to have Rottweilers, one at a time, not more than one. Love Rotties, but Rotties are a lot of work. So when my last dog passed away, I switched to cats. I learned how to love cats. And now I can't imagine having to go outside and walk the dog and pick up after them and everything because cats are just so independent. So that's a lifestyle choice, right? To keep my life simple, to not have to revolve my schedule around rushing home after work to let the dog out and that sort of thing. I also don't commit to a lot of ongoing responsibilities. I do volunteer, I'll participate in social events and that sort of thing, but it tends to be one-off type of things versus something where I'm required to show up week after week after week and people are counting on me. So I keep my lifestyle very simple in that way too. I don't have a lot of ongoing obligations on my time. I also choose very low maintenance friends. And maybe that sounds weird to say, but I have just naturally gravitated toward friends who don't expect a lot from me, and I don't expect a lot from them. So we're not the type of friends who are sending each other cards and throwing each other parties. We don't take each other meals when we're sick. I don't have those kind of relationships with people. And if that's something that is very important to you, you thrive off of that, then I'm not by any means saying to loosen those kind of community ties. I'm just saying that a theme in my life is to keep things as simple as possible. And I like to have low maintenance relationships with other people. I like to keep a very small, close circle of friends instead of having a lot of people in my life. And we just try to keep the expectations down. I like people who I see them when I see them. We hang out when we hang out. We talk when we talk. There's no obligation on anyone's part. That just really keeps things drama-free in my life. So I attract those kind of people to me, and that's just how my friendships operate. It's how my friendships have operated for years and years and years. And I think a lot of my family relationships really are like that too. We're just very low maintenance, don't expect a lot out of each other in terms of time obligations. So again, that might be a very different situation for you, either by choice or not by choice. But I hope that it's giving you something to think about just in terms of how your lifestyle contributes to the amount of time that you have, right? The more people that you have around, the more obligations that you have, the more activities you're involved in, all of that will create additional layers of complexity. And when you're thinking about your schedule or you're tempted to compare yourself to other people, think about those kinds of things. Because if you have those things in your life and you want them in your life, or you need to have them in your life, then your things are just going to be different for you. And that's okay. It's just something to sort of keep in mind when you're making your choices and when you're examining the types of ways that you want to use your time. So I prioritize simplicity in my lifestyle, and I prioritize simplicity in my daily routines. That's the second habit that I've established. My day-to-day choices are designed to make my life very simple. For example, it's very rare that I run any kind of errands. I do just about everything online. I have things delivered to me. I do go to the grocery store. I don't have groceries delivered, although I know a lot of people really love that. But other than that, pretty much everything else is online. I pay the bills online. Anything that I can, I will do over the internet versus having to go into people's physical offices and run all over town doing things. I also try to really simplify household chores as a way to keep my daily routines nice and easy. So I pay a house cleaner to come in. And that's something that I started doing many, many, many years ago when I was still on a teaching salary, because it just frees up so much time and energy for me. So if you have any sort of disposable income and you feel stretched for time, I would highly recommend that being something that you consider spending money on, even if it's just like once a month to do a deep clean. Paying someone to clean your house for you is just such a weight off of your shoulders, right? Because who wants to, most of the time you end up spending the weekend doing it, right? Who wants to spend their whole day Saturday cleaning when you've worked all week? So that's something that I just sort of took off my plate. Lawn care is another good area to hire out. Someone just shows up, they take care of it, and you don't have to think about it. So because I have someone helping with that, I don't really clean. I tidy up. I keep all the horizontal surfaces free and clear. That, for me, that's really the key to making a space look neat, right? Not having things sit around on every surface in front of you, just having things lying all over the place. So I do tidy up, but I have really relaxed standards about whether there could be crumbs on the floor, or if the bathroom sink has some toothpaste in it, whatever. I'll do just a real quick wipe down if I'm listening to an audiobook or something, but I don't dedicate time in my schedule to cleaning. It's just not that big of a priority for me, and I just want to keep things simple. I don't even really look after my cat. She has a self-cleaning litter box. She has an automatic feeder. She has an automatic water bowl that just automatically, like a fountain, right? That keeps like making sure she has nice, clean, fresh water for her. So I only have to deal with her stuff like once a week. And that is just an example of how I really like to automate things. If I can make things automatic so that I don't have to think about them every single day, that really helps me simplify. Another way that I simplify my daily routines is by reducing the number of trips out of the house that I have to make. I'm a homebody, and I am happiest on days when I don't have to leave the house at all. So if I know that I have trips that I need to make that week to go various places, I try to batch them and do as many as I can, in 1 day, 2 days if I can. So, like if this one whole afternoon I know is going to be appointments and running around, doing things that I need to do, that's fine. But at least I'm not feeling like I have to do that every single day. So limiting those and trying to batch them to really reduce trips helps me a lot. I also don't wear clothes that need to be dry cleaned. So I never have to go to the dry cleaner. I don't go to the gym. I have a little collapsible treadmill in my house. You think treadmills are super expensive, but if you get the ones that don't have an incline on them, they're actually not that expensive at all, and they can be stored like under the bed. They'll fold flat. So I have a treadmill that I love, and I can just use that. I do yoga, which I can do that with YouTube on the rug in the living room. So I don't have to waste time commuting back and forth to the gym and that sort of thing. So that takes care of exercise. It's just a really simple lifestyle by design, simple daily routines, automating as many things as possible, and also just trying to eliminate things that I don't like in my life or that waste time. One of those things that I've eliminated is live television. Now, I have my shows, don't get me wrong. I love just like binging on Netflix and that sort of thing. Love it. I watch Bravo, that sort of thing. But I watch them all online. So I'm watching them without commercials. And I'm watching them on my own time. It's not when the show comes on, whenever the television station decided they were going to air it. It's when it's convenient for me. I can rewind, I can fast forward. I'm not wasting time with commercials and that sort of thing. So that's a really big time saver. If you think about the amount of time that the average American watches television, cutting out live TV and switching to an experience that you control online, where you're not just, flipping through channels over and over and over and waiting out commercials, that can really make things feel simpler in your life. I also keep my meals really simple. So anytime I cook, now I'm just cooking for 2 people, so that really helps. But I always make a big pot of something and then repurpose the leftovers. I never make something for just one meal because I don't really like cooking. I've tried to find the joy in it because I know some people really love it, but to be honest, it just feels like a waste of time, especially, in a city like Brooklyn, where I can have amazing food delivered to my doorstep anytime, day or night. So it feels like I'm spending a half hour in the kitchen for something that my husband eats in 5 minutes and then it's gone. And then I've got to go clean up afterwards. So it's like, that didn't really feel very valuable to me. That was like a half hour, 45 minutes out of my day, and I could have done so many other things that would have either had a lasting impact or just would have been more fun. So I do cook because I like to eat my own cooking. I think I'm a good cook. My meals are healthy. I like to know what's in my food. So I do it. And my husband likes for me to cook. He doesn't ask a whole lot of me out of the house, but around the house. But the one thing that I know really means something to him is home cooked meals from time to time. He really appreciates that. It just makes him feel loved. So I do that from time to time, but I just keep it as simple as possible. He'll make jokes sometimes that I'm like the fastest cook in town. I'll be like, are you hungry? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go cook dinner. And then 10 minutes later, it's ready. He's like, how'd you do that? Fastest cook in town. How did you make a whole dinner in 10 minutes? Yeah, because I'm repurposing leftovers. I've already got stuff prepared and, I know really simple meals and, I rotate through a set of recipes over and over that I know that both of us really like. I could actually do a whole separate episode about simplifying weeknight meal prep. So I think I'll actually stop there with that. And I'll come back and I'll do another episode about it because I know that's something that a lot of people are interested in thinking about it and trying to streamline, especially when you work all day. It's just really hard to come home and, think about what am I going to put on the table that people are going to like and that's going to be good for them. So I've talked to teachers a lot about this. I have a lot of good tips and strategies. So I'll share that with you. So we talked so far about simplifying lifestyle. We talked about simplifying daily routines. The third habit that I've established is to pay just as much attention to the things that I say no to as the things that I say yes to. That's something that I think really helps me accomplish all of the things that I'm able to do. I feel like a lot of people are just trained to say yes to as many things as possible, right? I try to say yes just to the things that I'm super excited about. If someone asks me to do something, I'm only going to say yes if I feel like I can really add a unique value there. If you're asking me to do something that basically anyone could do, like you could pretty much just sub anyone in, then I'm really not likely to say yes. But if you're asking me to do something that's in my wheelhouse, something that is my special skill set, that I'm very talented at, that I know I'm able to really help a lot of people with, that's the sort of thing I'm more likely to do. And that is true with both work obligations and personal obligations. If there's some sort of event and people say, can you bring this dish to the party? I mean, I could, but as I told you, I don't really like to cook. And there's a lot of people out there who do. They get true joy from cooking things for other people. They have like their special recipes they like to bring to any kind of like school potluck or, whatever the event is. They love doing that and they thrive off of it. People compliment them on it, makes them feel great. That's how they express love and care to other people. Let those people cook. I'm going to bring the ice or the plates or the napkins. You know what I mean? I stay in my wheelhouse. If someone asks me to come speak on a topic that they want me to speak on, it's maybe, I don't know, something technology based or something. There's a lot of other people who can come talk about technology. But if you're saying our district did a book study on your book club, or our teachers went through the 40-hour teacher workweek club, we want you to come down and talk to them about productivity and that sort of thing. Okay, now I'm getting excited because that's in my wheelhouse. That's something that I really want to do. That's something that I feel like I can bring unique value to. I can make a real difference. No one else could really do it like I could. That's the kind of thing that I'm going to say yes to. And the rest of the type of things, I'm going to try to eliminate as many of them as possible. So paying attention to those no's, the same way that you pay attention to the things that you say yes to, that lets you shift your mindset from this frazzled, rushed, overscheduled person to the mindset of a truly productive person. Because people who struggle with productivity and with keeping their lives simple tend to just keep adding new tasks and responsibilities to what they're already doing. So when something else is presented or someone else asks them to do something, they'll ask themselves, how am I going to fit all this in? How am I going to have time for all this? But truly productive people will look at a new responsibility or a new opportunity, and they'll ask themselves, is this the best and highest use of my time? And if it is, what can I eliminate in order to make time for that? Productive people are always analyzing whether something is really necessary and whether it's really necessary right now. They're always reevaluating priorities and shifting tasks around. So that's my advice to you in that area, is to think about the things that you're saying no to and make sure that you're saying yes just to the things that are the best and highest use of your time. If you can say no to even a couple things that you're currently saying yes to, it can make a big difference in how much simpler your life feels. The fourth habit that I've created is that I am protective of the time that I set aside for things that move me toward my goals. And I keep showing up for myself. Let me explain what I mean by that. The only way that I can say yes to the things that I want to do is by freeing up time by saying no. All those little things add up. And so I have to approach my time like it's a really precious commodity. I have to think about my time like I think about my money. I'm not going to just go blow money and not think about it. I'm going to really weigh that out and count the cost ahead of time. And I'm doing the same thing there for my time. I know certain things that I want to spend my money on every month or even every day. And I know certain things that I want to spend my time on every month and every day. And I set aside time for the things that matter most. So Amy Porterfield talks about this. She's an entrepreneur and she calls like her focus time for working on things that move her towards her goals. She calls that her tiger time, meaning that she protects this time like a tiger, right? Like she's very possessive of it and she will battle for it. No one can take that time from her. And I am definitely the same way. I'm very tigerish about my time, especially those morning hours, because that's when I'm at my peak. When I first wake up, that time I know I can get a lot done and I'm thinking really clearly. I do my best work then. I know that things are going to pop up during the day that will interrupt me and throw me off track. I'm going to get emails that are frustrating or annoying or whatever, and that's going to throw off my mood and I won't feel as productive. So I want to get my most important work, my creative work, the work that moves me toward my goals. I want to get that done before all the other stuff starts happening. So I try ideally to do those things that I consider like my main thing, my most important thing, first thing in the day or as early in the day as possible before I start checking email and social media and that kind of stuff, because that can just turn into a rabbit hole, right? And one thing has the power to throw me off guard, off track, off kilter, and that sort of thing. So I set aside this time to get my things done, and I try to show up for myself every single day. I do take days off, of course, but on the days that I have scheduled this tiger time, I try to show up. Even if I'm not feeling creative, even if I'm not feeling productive, I just keep showing up. That for me has been the only way to get hard things done. That's the way I write books. That's the way I get this podcast done every single season, because I do hit my creative blocks. And I'm like, I don't know what to say yet. It's not flowing. And I'll just avoid the whole project if I don't make myself show up. So I try to just do a little bit every day, and eventually I find that it takes shape. And in order to keep showing up, keep chipping away at these big things, I have to protect that time. So maybe that's something that you can do too. Pay attention to your high energy times of day and try to set aside some of them for getting the most important things done. So really schedule that in your calendar. Don't let anyone else encroach on it. If someone asks you to do something, tell them, I'm sorry, I already have a commitment during that time. Because you do. You've made a commitment to yourself. You can schedule time into your calendar for you. It could be self-care, it could be for work, whatever it is that you know you need to get done to really feel like yourself, to feel like you're moving towards your goals, to feel like you're able to accomplish the things that you want in your life. You know what some of those things are, and you know that you're probably not getting enough time for it. So if you can kind of be tigerish about that time, set aside that tiger time and keep showing up for yourself the way that you show up for other people, I think you'll find that your life feels a lot more simple. The final habit that I have is that I batch as many things as possible so that I can focus on deep work. When I'm floating from thing to thing, it just all starts to feel very meaningless to me, and I get overwhelmed, I get frazzled very quickly. So I try to set aside like chunks of time where I can focus on one thing. That's why I take breaks in between seasons of the podcast, because it takes a lot of effort. At least 10 hours a week usually, if I didn't take breaks between it. So, taking breaks over the summer and then also over the holiday break in the winter, that allows me to focus for, a couple months on really producing great podcast episodes. And then I can just totally clear my plate and focus on other things. I feel like I can't possibly do all the things that I do. I do speaking, I travel around to districts, I create curriculum resources, I write books, I create courses, I support teachers in the 40-hour Teacher Workweek Club. I'm always sharing ideas and things on social media, on the podcast, and a weekly email. It's a lot. And I can't do all of that stuff every single day. I can't even do it all every single week or every single month. It's too much. So I set aside blocks of time where I focus on that. So for example, I spend usually, it's like one day every 6 weeks or so. And I plan out what I'm going to be sharing on my Facebook page. I usually share one article a day on Facebook, maybe like 5 times a week. I actually usually take weekends off there. And I make sure that I have something to share that is super awesome, very high quality, that teachers are going to be really interested in, something that's going to spark a great discussion and really help people improve their teaching and love their work more. So I sit down and I spend a couple hours on that every 6 weeks or so. And that is so much better for me than every single day wondering, okay, what am I going to post on Facebook? Or I haven't posted on Facebook in a while. I should probably get over there and do that. Because that's what makes me end up feeling pulled in a million directions. And also makes it really hard to be strategic. If you're doing everything day by day, then it's really hard to think about big picture stuff. So maybe that's something that is applicable for you too. If you're planning your life and your teaching day by day, then you might feel like you're just constantly making on-the-fly decisions and you're trying to do lots of different things and feeling pressure to do all of it every day. If you can batch your lesson plans to work on a unit at a time, or even just a week at a time, if you can batch your grading so that you can get a holistic overview of what your kids know and are able to do. If you can batch when you respond to email, stop responding to them one by one all day long, sit down once a day and respond to all of them. All of those types of approaches will allow you to think deeply about the task at hand and really immerse yourself in it. Do it well, do it with your whole heart, be fully present instead of being pulled from one thing to another and going to all these different projects all the time. So this approach of batching has just been a lot less stressful for me, and it creates outcomes that are better for everyone else that I'm trying to serve. It's really one of the most critical strategies that I think you can use. I really encourage you to try it. So we've talked about simplifying your lifestyle, simplifying your routines. When you're eliminating things, try to automate as much as possible. We've talked about saying no to things and being just as intentional about what you say no to as what you say yes to. And we talked about batching work and not trying to do everything or attend to everything or remember everything on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. Try to move some of these things off your plate so you have focused time to concentrate on them, and then you can sort of take a step back and focus on something else for a while. I'll leave you here with a thought that will hopefully help you apply some of this to your life, because I know that my lifestyle, not being in the classroom right now, is very different from most of yours. I was in the classroom for 11 years, so I know that daily grind, and I know that I have a lot more flexibility in my time and my schedule than many of you do, and my tips and my strategies are based on that. But this is the piece that I want you to keep in mind. You have to base your approach to simplifying on your season of life. I arranged my daily schedule, and my priorities were different when I was at a different place in my career. They were different when I was single. If my husband and I are blessed enough to have a family one day, it's going to change again. So think about what is going to make sense for you in this season of life. And don't discount circumstances that are influencing things. You may be trying to compensate for things in ways that really aren't serving you well. If you have a family member who's in hospice care right now, you're probably not going to be able to just power through and focus perfectly and get everything done that you want to do. You're going to be focused on end-of-life issues and grieving, and that's okay. If you have children at home right now, then you're in a very long season of pouring a tremendous amount of time and energy into being a caregiver and raising good humans. That's huge for your focus, right? And that's going to impact the way that you choose to simplify your life and what you want to focus on. So all these other things that you care about, maybe becoming a better teacher or having more time for yourself, other things that are priority, may have to be a priority in another season, because you can't get back this season of life with your loved ones ever again. You will find yourself growing frustrated and overwhelmed if you pressure yourself to try to live a life right now that could only be accomplished in a different season. It's going to take twice as much effort, and you're going to get half the results. So in this way, simplification and focusing on what matters is not a daily achievement. It's not something you're going to strive for and accomplish every single day. It's a lifetime goal. It's a lifetime achievement. You want to look back on your life many years from now and see that you spent seasons focusing on yourself, focusing on your significant other, seasons focusing on your children, on making a home, seasons on your career, and so on. And that all of that was exactly what you were supposed to have done at each point in time. Your takeaway truth for the week ahead is this: the goal is not to do everything you can each day, but everything you should. Don't pressure yourself to keep trying to fit in more, and instead think about what season of life you're in and how you can simplify to focus on your biggest priorities right now. Have a great week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. Want more than just a weekly podcast episode from me? I'd love to also send you a weekly message of encouragement via email. I'll reach out each Sunday evening with a short message that's designed to help you feel more prepared and inspired and motivated for the week ahead. It's not a newsletter or a bunch of announcements. This goes out to over 85,000 educators. So I put just as much thought into crafting this weekly written message to my email list as I do into crafting my podcast episodes. And it's entirely unique content that you won't find anywhere else online. Just go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/subscribe and you can sign up. That's thecornerstoneforteachers.com/subscribe.